Adgure Namaha, Trigadgure Namaha, Satgure Namaha, Sri Gurudeve Namaha, Adgure Namaha, Trigadgure Namaha, Satgure Namaha, Sri Gurudeve Namaha, Adgure Namaha, Trigadgure Namaha, Satgure Namaha, Sri Gurudeve Namaha. So my name is Gurfateh Singh. I'm a teacher of Kundalini Yoga, the yoga of awareness. I've been asked to give a presentation on what Kundalini yogi, a practitioner, a teacher can do in the event of an earthquake or some big disaster like that. And I've been asked specifically what to do after the disaster. And sometimes we're like, as yogis, we're fortunately or unfortunately, we're a little like pet dogs. You say to the dog, uh, "Give us a class," and the doggy says, "Yes, yes, I give you a class." You say to the doggy, "Lead sadhana." Doggy, "Yes, yes, I'll lead sadhana." But sometimes the doggy, it looks like the dog is freaking out. The dog is not behaving properly, and sometimes it takes a while to figure out why the doggy is not behaving the way you expect. And usually there's the doggy is sensing there's some danger and that you don't even know about. So it may seem today like I'm freaking out a bit, but I'm not freaking out. What I'm seeing is that um, it's not enough to have a list of things to do after a disaster, because disasters are changing the nature of disaster and the causation of disaster is changing even as I speak. And as a yogi of awareness, it's smart, it's wise, it's rational to address these events before even they happen. So now, if you have a leak in your roof, you don't want to wait until the cyclone or the hurricane comes to fix the leak in your roof. You want to have a nice sunny day, fix the leak in your roof. That's a good policy, right? Because during the cyclone, there's no hope. It's not going to work very well. You're going to endanger yourself, and it's not a good time to fix anything. Also, before there's a terrible event. And these are unpredictable. They can happen to you once in a lifetime. They can happen more than once in a lifetime. Earthquake, volcano, forest fire, God knows. Um, it's good to have your sadhana very strong. Not, oh, there's going to be an earthquake. I'm going to do my sadhana today. No, do your sadhana, a regular sadhana, and that will give you a calm frame of mind, a neutral mind, so that whatever happens, you're not actually freaking out. You can do like me and pretend to freak out, act like you're freaking out, but you don't want to actually lose your cool and be beside yourself when there's a traumatic event, because that's what everybody else is going to do, right? You want to be the calm center that people can look to for guidance and inspiration and perhaps even some help. Um, so these are the things, two of the things you want to bear in mind. But there's more than that. I mean, we gave a talk like this a few weeks ago, and even in that time, in a matter of a couple of weeks, I did a bit of research and I found something astounding. Um, Now we're used to natural disasters. Volcanoes can happen, and usually we think an earthquake. Well, that's a natural disaster. We have no effect on that. But amazingly, we have global heating today, and we need to deal with that because global heating, listen to me now, particularly if you're living in an earthquake zone, which is by an ocean. Now, global heating means that the glaciers in the north, and the far south are melting. Where does that melt go? It goes into the oceans. What does that melt do in the oceans? It creates a lot of pressure. So there's a lot of water now coming into the ocean. And the oceans, this is news from 1 week ago, are warmer than they've ever been before, with all of this melted water, and the oceans are going up. And what does that do? Water is heavy. And so all those tons and tons of water from Greenland and from Antarctica is pushing down on the Earth. And where there are vulnerable fault zones where there tend to be earthquakes, now there's more pressure on them to react and to create an earthquake. So am I saying that global heating is going to create an earthquake where you don't have earthquakes? No, that's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying that where you have a tendency anyway, this is going to make it worse because there's going to be more pressure on those sensitive areas and you have a greater chance. And we've just seen earthquakes in Japan, in Venezuela, also in Colombia, which are all near the coast. And a lot of these faults, the tectonic faults they're called, run under the ocean also. So we used to say, oh, earthquake, it's an act of God. Now we can say reliably that earthquakes, together with wildfires and hurricanes, typhoons, and droughts and floods, are all affected by us. And particularly, they're affected not just by you and me. I don't even have a car, but they're affected by the oil corporations. And I have a new word. We're coining a word. It's called exonification. It's named after a famous oil company. So exonification is to heat the planet, all right? Because the oil companies, they do that, but by their work they do. Exonification has another meaning. It's based on the history of Exxon in the United States of America. Also, it means to distort scientific arguments, to make false arguments, to lobby governments, and to feed political polarization to enable the continued sale of fossil fuels. So by their lying and by their tricks, the oil companies, and this is the number one company, they've all been doing it, are putting us in a situation where instead of banning oil, which we could have done years and years ago, we are buying it still to put in our cars and to do this and do that, and which is making the crisis worse. All right. So global heating has an address even. It's a crisis with an address, and the address is just outside of Houston in Texas. So know that this is not a crisis. Oh, everybody's creating a crisis. There are specific places, addresses where this crisis is coming from. And moreover, I'm speaking very soberly today. Um, Undermining climate science, undermining it, disputing it, scientific, ever beyond scientific dispute, by saying that climate change or that global heating is a Chinese hoax is a crime against humanity. It's a crime against humanity because it causes casualties. There are effects. Thousands of people die because of that, because of you're going to have all these effects which kill people, the storms, the flood, the droughts. And then you have the migration, the forced migration, because people can't live anymore and because there's a drought or there's been a flood and the climate is insecure. So heaven help them. They try and cross the Mediterranean to Europe. They try and go through the jungle to America. There's a lot, it's very dangerous. And moreover, these earthquakes and all these weather events, they create problems. And moreover, I mean, all the people who are studying this, including the governments with the big armies, they understand that eventually, when it gets very bad, there will be wars about reduced resources, particularly about water. So very, very dangerous. Thousands of people are dying today because of the lies that are being done today, but oh, it's a Chinese hoax, and that is accelerating. So we're going to be talking millions of lives will be lost. So it's definitely a crime against humanity, and people that say that sort of thing, they shouldn't be a president of any country. They should be locked up. It's insane. There's a place you put insane people. You can lock them up there if they're criminally insane. Criminals, they also have a place they get locked up. So I understand they have a big public relations machine and blah 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 blah, but this is the truth. And so this is the background. So before we go running around putting out fires, it's good to check and see who's starting the fire. How come we're having fire? Otherwise, we're just endlessly putting out fires. Okay, so that's before. Do your sadhana and be politically engaged. It's on us, you know. The hyper rich who are having a huge influence on the carbon footprints and the carbon emissions, most of them don't care, you know. It's up to us in the grassroots to push up, to organize, and to put an end to this disaster. Um, so okay, so then you have a wildfire, you have some catastrophe. What do you do? I think I hinted on it before. You keep calm. You know, if you're doing your sadhana, it'll be extraordinarily easy for you to keep your calm. Yogi Ji would say, Ketya duk buk sadmar epi dat teri data from Japji. And he said, you know, whatever catastrophe, disaster, abuse comes up, these are all your blessings. I can take it. You know, I can handle it. You know, these are all they all bring lessons and blessings and opportunities for service and for growth. And for us, definitely it's a big opportunity for service. The first service is don't freak out. Be calm, be relaxed. And secondly, without endangering your life, because there's going to be victims. Don't make yourself another victim. Without endangering your life, help as best you can in the moment where the situation is. Do proper risk assessment and don't create another casualty, another victim for the rescuers to come and help. Immediately after, if you have no expertise in wildfire fighting or in earthquake rescue or helping with a cyclone or a hurricane, typhoon, um, see who does have the expertise and offer to help. Offer to help. See, ask, you know, how can I help? And usually they could use help. It's a big job. And so if you can do some paperwork for them, or if you can serve tea for them, I mean, they're going to appreciate that. And and it will give you something to keep busy. Otherwise, you're just going to be sitting worrying or or going online on Facebook and posting all these horrible things. Make yourself useful. You know, we have friends, you know, in Venezuela where they just had an earthquake and Antar Jotkar, she made herself busy. Right after the earthquake, she started to teach some people some pranayama, and that lasted for a little while. But what she found out eventually was that people don't really want pranayama so much. What they need is water and they need work. So she raised some money. I was able to give a little bit of money. Other people are giving money. And she has a project sharing fresh water, bottled water, because the whole water system broke down with the earthquake. So people can't turn on their tap and get water anymore. She's doing great work. She's got trucks full of water going, and the trucks are also giving people work because you lose work. Well, you lose your job. Your factory collapses. Your boss dies, you know. So there's need for employment. If you can provide employment and if you can provide water or whatever is needed, often there's food which is needed. There was a disaster in New York City, 2001, and also there's an earthquake in Los Angeles. And Yogiji, he would recommend go out there, give people food, very simple food, not a big feast, just mung beans and rice, simple sattvic food. It helps people to relax, and even just to have some food in your stomach and to sit with people and to commune. Literally, commune means to eat together. It creates community. It may be just a little short community for a few minutes or for a couple of hours, but people need that. People tend to be feeling victimized and scared and alone and isolated, and give them a place to come together where they can share, they can have food, and feel safe. People are looking for safety. They're not necessarily looking for somebody in a turban to teach them some exotic yoga. They're looking for safety. You should know that. Look at the world the way they're looking at it, especially if they don't know you at all, right? Um, Now, immediately after, as I say, network with the experts, collaborate. In Chile, they did a beautiful thing. They had big wildfires a few months ago. Fires all over the place, lots of people losing their houses, houses burning down, homeless people. And so they networked with organizations which were experienced, and they went there. And one of the great savers, one of the great services they did was they went to their shelters and they stayed overnight. And they kept people company. People were having nightmares. People were scared. People were worried. And so they sat with them and they listened to their stories. You don't have to tell them your story. Listen, people really need sometimes to tell their story. So sit and hold their hand maybe if they want that and listen to their stories. If they ask for a kriya, you can give a very simple kriya, but don't go overboard and give them things they don't want. Listen to hear what they want. If they want some food, some water, some tea, just someone to talk to, and give them that. Um, there are trauma recovery exercises. You can just Google trauma Kundalini yoga. You'll find a whole bunch, and there are, those are effective. I remember Satbir Singh from Harvard University. He once said, "You know what? There's a lot of, talk about, well, this exercise is good for trauma, this exercise is good for that." He said, "You know what? Any yoga you do, any Kundalini yoga is going to be integrative. And you may not remember the particular Kriya for an earthquake. You'll be taught one actually after an earthquake in Los Angeles. You may not remember that particular Kriya. Doesn't matter. Don't worry. Just any Kriya will help if somebody wants to do Kundalini yoga. And so you can have a little class together. Don't, when people have had a tough experience or traumatized, just teach the yoga gently with a soft voice and don't push them hard. They've already had their trauma. Don't you be a secondary trauma. Oh, the teacher is so mean. You don't do that. Just relax and be very kind and maybe give them some gentle yoga and give them tea. Give them some yogi tea if you have yogi tea. It's great for the nervous system and it's wonderful. So, yeah, and so we have Kundalini yoga. We have a specific, like my specialty is Kundalini yoga for post-traumatic stress. So then time passes on, and then people, I mean, ideally, if you're on the front line during an event, you're going to touch people's hearts and help them to have a better experience of a bad experience. You're going to make it better for them. They're going to say, "Wow, there was this angel that came and they held my hand and they brought me food and they were really, really, really helpful." You're going to create a good memory out of a bad experience for them, and so that's wonderful if you can do that. Don't forget that people are constantly making memories, and a traumatic event like that is a big, big memory, but you can be a positive part. You can spin it around so it's not so horrible, so that people remember it in the next months and weeks and years, that it's not so crippling and so, you can make it better for them. You can create a good memory. But also, you can teach them yoga, or you can take a course. In the following months, you can take a course. I give courses. Other people give courses also in Kundalini yoga for trauma, and you can help people out who are really traumatized, that they can change their mind. When somebody's been traumatized, it whole changes the brain structure, how the brain works. And where normally your command center is here, we love our third eye, it's a command center. So it's your executive function. The function then goes whoop to the back to the amygdala where the memory is. And that means you're not in the present moment anymore. And also the amygdala is full of emotions. So instead of being here and clear and just calm, you're going to be scared and paranoid and looking for trouble and never, never relaxed. So that's the symptom. That's what it's like when somebody is traumatized. They're not themselves anymore. They're beside themselves. So if you find people like that, uh, then, after, weeks afterwards, you can give them a trauma course. And after um, we have a trauma course for 8 weeks. After that, the person might end up saying, like people do after a trauma course, I'm feeling myself again. I was beside myself. I wasn't myself. And now I've rediscovered myself. And thank you very much for Kundalini Yoga. Right? But we don't do that right when the earthquake is shaking. We don't give them a class right away. We're talking down the road when things stabilize, people have food, and hopefully they have shelter, and maybe they have work again. That's something we can think about, and we're pretty good at that. We have experience in that. Um, and of course, afterwards, you can create infrastructure, create trainings or trauma. And trauma comes from different places. It doesn't only come from earthquakes. It comes from domestic abuse. It comes from all kinds of violence, car crashes. Trauma can be personal. It can be uh, an event, a regional event, a citywide event. It comes in all different shapes and forms, and all of it it takes you away from your satnam. Your satnam is the very sweet part of you where you're just yourself. You're just being yourself and you're not afraid. So fear starts to take over, and fear affects politics too. That's part of the reason we have these very dysfunctional politics and lying leaders and all this sort of thing. So I'm going to go back to where I began with when the situation is stabilized and you're helping people as best you can. Perhaps you're donating some money. Maybe you don't live in an earthquake zone or in a disaster zone. You can always send money to the organizations that are doing work, and that's always very much appreciated. Um, Also, be politically engaged, because every day the carbon emissions are going higher and higher. The globe is heating up more and more. There are more and more climate disasters, including now we can say tsunamis and earthquakes. It's also now a climate disaster. And not only there's more of them, but they're getting more powerful and more destructive. So we really, really need to focus on, study your local elections. Who is for what? Who is for dealing with the climate crisis and who is like an ostrich, burying their head, or who is taking money from the oil companies and you should never, never trust them because they've sold their soul. So it's very important to be politically engaged. If you consider yourself a Sikh, it's part of our history. We say Miri Piri. Miri, be very spiritual, be very doing your sadhana and love God and then serve people, um, you know, but also be very politically smart. Yogi Bhajan would meet with all the politicians. And I remember when he would come to Toronto, my job, I was like a young guy, I would be sent out, go fetch his paper. So I would get his paper so Yogi Bhajan could read the best papers and read what's going on in the world. So he knows where the next trauma, where the next problem is going to come, and where already people are suffering, and how best to engage those people. If you don't know there's a problem, if you don't know what the cause of the problem is, it's very difficult. You'll always be putting out you always have emergencies. You don't know where they come from. But if you have a bigger understanding of the backdrop and the causes of events which are painful, then you have a better chance of preventing them in the first place, and then hopefully lessening them so there's less of them and they're less traumatic, and you can help to heal the people that have been hurt and that need to be healed. So that is it in a nutshell. There are beautiful kriyas. The basic kriya we've been doing in our um, programs for post-traumatic stress. The basic kriya, you can Google it, is uh, basic adjustment for the brain. Elemental adjustment for the brain. You can Google it. You can find it. And naturally, if someone has not done Kundalini yoga, you just give them a little bit, and maybe instead of 3 minutes, you do 1 minute or 30 seconds. Even just doing a very, very little bit can still affect the person. We had an 8-week course, and we said, all right, everybody, try to do elementary adjustment of the brain every day. And you know what? People just didn't have the brain to do that. They couldn't discipline themselves. Remember, this is the center of discipline, and it was broken, right? So if they could do it once a week, it was fantastic. And we always would congratulate them because That's very important to build them up. But we saw also that even if they're doing just once a week, doing a little bit of Kundalini yoga, it helps so much. A little bit can go a very, very long way. So, so know that elementary adjustment of the brain and any Kundalini yoga at all can help. Now, there is a problem over the long term of flashbacks. All right, flashbacks. So this is not any secret knowledge. A flashback takes you again. You go into the amygdala and you think you're experiencing the whole event all over again. Your wildfire, your earthquake. And so, what do you do in a flashback? Um, do your best to remind yourself this is a flashback. To tell yourself the date. You know, the flashback happened in history. Tell yourself today is Tuesday, August 15, and I am in Kyoto. All right. The earthquake happened in Tokyo. I'm not in Tokyo. And that was in the past, and I'm not living in the past. I am living here. All right. It can also help just take some action because normally when you're having a flashback, you go into zombie mode, like you freeze. Don't freeze. Do something. Take some water. Drink some water. Control your breath a little bit. Exhale more slowly than you inhale. Control your breath, right? Even go to another room. Just take command, change your environment, change your circumstances, and exercise your, we call it your willpower, your executive function, so you're not frozen in the past. And keep your eyes open. All right. Also, if you're guiding someone who's having a flashback, keep their eyes open. Ask them, please look at me, look at me, look at me. Don't close your eyes. If they close their eyes, you lost them. They're gone. They're going to be back in the earthquake or the wildfire, back in the disaster. You don't want them going there. Okay, so eyes open and talk to them. Talk to them. You know, talk to the other person or talk to yourself. Say, I am here. This is not a trauma zone. I had a trauma. I'm experiencing a flashback. There's nothing to fear. I'm okay. I'm going to drink some water. I'm going to control my breath. I'm going to exhale slowly, inhale, and this is going to pass. These flashbacks, they always pass. They go away, and I'll be fine. I am fine. Healthy, happy, holy, however you want to say it. Okay, so yeah, flashbacks can be very unpleasant until you heal the trauma. If you're having a lot of those, you definitely want to take a course, take some classes in yoga for trauma. They're readily available. You can find the classes, and yeah, you want to be yourself again. You have a trauma like that, you can be beside yourself for a while. There's no need for that. It's not a very happy life living in trauma, and we're so very lucky. You know, I was telling somebody the other day, we don't know our power. You know, there's a saying that if you can change somebody's mind, you can change the world. If you can change the mind, you can change the world. And that's exactly what we do. People do advertising, you know, they affect the world, they affect business, politics by changing people's minds through manipulation on the internet and all sorts of media. We can change people's minds from the inside out, no manipulation through Kundalini Yoga. It's a beautiful, very sacred power, and it's unparalleled, unmatched, and it's a great blessing. So I'm very grateful for this time to share with you, and I wish you all the best, and may we be healthy, happy, and holy. Satnam.